welcome to GameBurst Unplugged, our monthly look at everything to do with tabletop gaming, cards, dice, etc. I'm Gary, Zantua Blair, better known as Zan, and joining me as usual this month we have Joel Wright.
Hello. And
we have a special guest, returning GameBurst alumni. It is Lewis Holt.
I really wish you wouldn't call me special, although depending which way you mean special. But yes, hello. Glad to be back again.
I don't know what else to call you, really. I mean, the grandee of GameBurst or something? I don't know.
No. I could be something elaborate like founder or something, but that makes me sound extremely poncy, so no. Just dude who came up with the idea with James and Neil.
Yeah, there we go. That's probably easier. Right, just before we kick off this month, just to mention that we're just doing an experiment with Unplugged. Obviously, we're talking about board games, and sometimes it's quite hard to visualise what we're talking about, so there will be an accompanying video to this show, like there was for last month's show. Mm-hmm. There'll be a link in the show notes and on the website to the YouTube video, so you can listen and look at the pretty pictures of the games we're talking about.
And my apologies for feeding that idea into your head.
That's quite right. No, it's a very sensible idea, actually, and looking around, not many other people do it, so it's it's a pretty good idea. So we'll try it anyway, and we'll see how it goes. But I do think it does help visualise some of these games, which is often very difficult to describe. As Joel's first game he's going to talk about is a prime example.
Thanks.
Roll for the Galaxy is a kind of offshoot from Race from the Galaxy, which came out many years ago when deck building came around. Race for the Galaxy is a deck building card. The trouble with Race for the Galaxy was there's a lot of icons in it and there's no writing on the cards, so you kind of had to know what the icons meant while you were playing the game. It put a lot of people off, but it was meant to be a very good game. Roll for the Galaxy is the same thing but with dice. You're not drafting or deck building, you're rolling dice to create your galaxy, your race's galaxy. You get a lot of dice, different colours, all with same symbols on, but the different colours might mean there's more symbols than other dice. There's about 6 different symbols. Some of them have wild symbols on them, which can be used as anything. You get a player screen, you get a little card that goes behind the player screen, which has the symbols on it. I'll explain that in a minute. You get a cup for your dice, and then you get another kind of board that sits in front of your screen, which is your kind of citizen side, where you're building and settling new building technology and settling new planets. You also get a starting race card, which kind of gives you its own little unique ability, and a starting planet, which usually gives you a dice, either starting in your citizen, in your cup, or on the planet itself. So at the beginning of a round, you also get about 5 white dice. These are like the standard normal white dice. So at the beginning of a round, you put a certain amount of dice in your cup, and then you roll them behind your screen, and you have to use the symbols that are there. You line up the symbols below the card of each icon. So you're going to have exploring, development, which is technology, settling, which is planets, products, and shipping. So you line the dice up with the symbols that you rolled underneath, and then with one of the dice you can put it on top of one of the symbols, which means that symbol will be activated in the game. What I mean by that is once everyone's ready and they've selected dice and where's going what and what's doing with this, you all reveal what's happening. Now whatever people have selected will get activated for that round. So I said there's 5 symbols, and if you've got 3 players, possibly only 3 symbols will be activated in that round. If you've got a 5-player game, then possibly all 5 will be activated, which is a win-win for everyone. The game is very, very good. I really enjoy it. It's very fast, actually. It plays... 5 players can play it in an hour and a half easily once you know what you're doing. And there's not a lot to do. Yeah, it's got a lot of symbols in it. It doesn't really mean anything. You're just looking at symbols and colours. There's text on the cards. There's text all over your player screen to know what to do. So once you've after a round or two, you kind of know what you're doing, and it's really clever. There's not much player interaction, except for when you're looking at other people's tableaus and seeing what they've got out there, you probably can gather, okay, he's going to be developing, I bet, next time, or he's going to be shipping all those goods he's got on his planet. So he'll be selecting shipping, he'll be selecting development. I can select something different because I need these dice out. That's the early interaction. You just kind of keep an eye on what the other players are doing. But other than that, it is a very good game. It's very quick, and the dice look delicious. They're quite small, but they're very clear. The colours are very clear, and the symbols are very clear, and they look like sweets. And I just want to eat it every time I play the game. As I said, this game only came out last year, very end of last year. If it came out sooner, I reckon it'd been up with 4 rewards, but they got it out a little bit too late after a few problems. Plays 2 to 5 players. It says there's a playing time of 45 minutes. That can be done if it's 2 or 3 players.
Lewis, do you want to talk about your game, Evolution?
Indeed. Now, people who have been... Because Evolution, it was a Kickstarter. And lots of people were harping on about that because the Kickstarter rolled out, I think it was just before Christmas. I think that's when it got it all delivered. It's the same guys that did Wits and Wagers and Telestrations and everything. I've totally forgotten what they're called. They did a campaign for this game. It was their first kind of real game, not so much party game, which is basically a card game where you are evolving creatures using cards you draw from a deck. And you start off with 3 cards plus 1 for every creature you have, and you can use the cards to buy more population, buy more body size, increase your body size, give them abilities like turn them into carnivores, or let them have long necks so they can eat from the food first. And basically you're using these cards to create a species to try and survive and to eat as much as you can, because the goal of the game is just to eat. So the more you can eat by increasing your population, and the more creatures you have and more population, the more cubes you will eat. But that also is the double jeopardy, because you need to put more food into the middle, and you only get to put 1 card in this kind of central area. You all have to do this at the beginning. And some people can put minuses in, and some people can put none at all. So there is kind of a fight for food. So you want to create a creature that is grabbing food out of there first, or maybe grabbing 2 at a time. So when it's your turn, you're getting the most. Or you can play that carnivore card, which turns your creature from a very passive kind of herbivore into a carnivore, and you're then eating other people's creatures. Then you're evolving your creature to defend yourself by making it bigger, because you have to be bigger in order to attack someone else, or you can climb up trees, or you burrow, and these kinds of things. And it's a really easy game to run. It takes you like 1 round to kind of get it. Kind of like one kind of like go of, oh, I see how it works. It's a really simple game to play. My boys love it because you're changing. It's like, not so much once you're out, you're out. You can keep changing. So if I eat all of your creatures and there's nothing left, you start again, 1 creature, there are your cards, off you go again. But I will say it is quite hard to come back once you've been decimated by carnivores, because they are bastards. But the game is an excellent game. Honestly, I hammered him, and I could see him getting so dejected, and it wasn't deliberate. I turned myself into a carnivore, and I played pack hunting card, which means my body size is kind of a pseudo 3 sizes bigger than what it is. And you just couldn't. I had to eat, and I can't. Once you're a carnivore, you can't eat the plant food in the center. So I changed myself from being a carnivore, but it was too late by that point, and he was dead. So, but it's very good. I've played it with my daughter and her boyfriend and the wife and the kids, and we've all really enjoyed it. It's a very, very light kind of game, and it kind of suits the that the evolution terminology and everything, that the theme kind of quite shines through. It's quite good. I just wish it wasn't 40 quid. So,
blimey.
Yeah, I think it's about that, 35 or 40 quid. I actually backed it on Kickstarter, then I pulled out of it, then I backed it again as a print and play, and thought I will get around to doing this at some point. And just before Christmas, a friend of ours who we play games with he did back it on Kickstarter for the full game, and I played the full component game, and it is quite lovely. I picked up last year at the UK Expo, I picked up a load of cubes, like just to fill some games in case I got any missing, and I used those for the game, and I printed out and sleeved the cards, and it works just as well. I wouldn't say it's as good as, but it works just as well as the game, and it's a very fun game. A really, really, really good fun game.
Sounds like a much lighter version like Dominant Species. I don't know if you've played that.
Yeah, I would say so. Dominant Species is much heavier, and I wouldn't say it was like that. There are plenty of people that I played Dominant Species with. There's much more involvement in Dominant Species. There's two. The theme is there are creatures. That's about it. I think that would be the similarity between the two. Although you can change yourself in Dominant Species, that's not really the main aim of the game. There's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Area control in Dominant Species, and there's none of that in this game. Just you versus everyone else, or you versus the food in the middle, really. So,
right, I wanted to talk not about a game but about an event. I'm a member of a couple of board game clubs in Kent, Whitstable and Ashford. There's also one in Canterbury which I occasionally go to, and also one in Thanet I occasionally go to. But a few of us got talking a few months back about possibly putting together a Kent's first convention, board game convention, because I don't think anyone could remember ever having one before. And lots of other parts of the country have annual events. So myself, a lady called Rosie Kerr is actually really the person who organised most of it, and a few others. We got together and we eventually hatched a plan to run East Kent's first board game convention, which took place last Saturday, called Canterbury Conquest, and it was a resounding success. Really, we invited all the board game groups we knew of in Kent and the surrounding area, and we had, I think, 56 people come.
Very nice.
And we had a retailer bring and buy sale. We had demonstrations, and we had about 50 people doing sort of open gaming. There was one group that played Talisman the whole day.
Is that like the 18XX lot, but just in Talisman style?
Yeah, basically. It was a roaring success, really. We played the game we're going to talk about a bit later.
Saw the photos, yep.
It was an epic game as well. It was really good fun. That's much I can say about it, really. Only other thing to probably briefly mention, as you're on the call, Lewis, is that I picked up a copy of Merchant of Venus. I bought a second-hand copy at the event.
Mm-hmm.
What, new style or old style?
It's the Fantasy Flight one, so it's got both. Yeah.
Okay.
And the last time I played it was with you.
Indeed. And
at 3 o'clock in the morning.
3 o'clock in the morning was a perfect time to learn Merchant of Venus. And I believe you decimated me, rightly so, actually, because apparently it's a pick up and deliver game. I did no picking up. I don't think I did much delivering. I just went round and round planets for quite a while. And
you can kind of get stuck in loops, can't you?
Yes. Where I'd approach a junction, not roll the dice I needed, and you'd go, and you're turning right, not the way you wanted to go. Thanks very much.
No.
So yes, that's good. I actually traded mine in the mass trade last year at the UK Expo. I played it again afterwards, and I played it single player, and I kind of went, I've had my fill of this game, and it's I got my money back on it, so I was very happy. So, but
I think you either like pick up and deliver games or you don't. They're definitely.
Well, I quite like Merchants and Marauders. Would you count that as a pick up and deliver?
Yes, yeah. I love Merchants.
And I quite like that.
They're almost exactly the same game, in fact. If you sort of strip away everything.
But I think it's not as long. I like
the
length.
Yeah, we played the Lightspeed game. I don't know if that's in the back of the rules. There's a fast option. So
you start at 17 or something like that, or you go up to 7.
Yeah, you start at 16. You start with a load of money.
Yeah.
We enjoyed. I mean, we played that last night. And we enjoyed that because it was only about 2.5 hours, and that felt about the right length, actually.
Yeah, that's the trouble. See, you want it to be about that long, but when you play the full game, it just seems to go on for days.
Yeah, you spend the first sort of hour doing nothing, but just
Yeah.
flying around, turning over
Grading.
cards.
Yeah, exactly that. Where is this? Where is that?
It's an hour of playing setup, isn't it? Basically.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
Right, okay, well, after the break, we are going to talk about our game, the game we're reviewing this month, which is Chaos in the Old World. Right, our review game this month is Chaos in the Old World. So Lewis and Joel have played it. Joel is now joining us on the phone, thanks to the power of the internet in deepest, darkest Devon. Right, so Joel, do you want to describe Chaos in the Old World for anyone who's not played this before?
Well, for a start, it's not for the faint of hearted. The Chaos in the Old World is a basic area control game using the Warhammer Fantasy Flight world, I should say. You are gods of each race, like Khorne, Nurgle, Shiness, and the other one I can't even read. And
Tzeentch.
Is it? And you basically trying to put your followers out throughout this map of the old world and trying to corrupt it, destroy parts of it, control it, take down the villagers. And basically, there's about 3 ways to win the game. It's asymmetrical, is that what you call it? When each person has its own different abilities, its own cards, its own dial. That's another thing. You've got this dial that you turn, which upgrades you or gives you more points. So each god is different. Each one plays differently. Like Khorne is basically a bat of fire. You just fight with Khorne and you try and do as much fighting and death and destruction as you can. Nurgle is all about plague and corruption throughout the land. And like you said, there's 3 ways to win. There's points, being the one with reaching 50 points, is it, Gary?
The moment you go over that, it triggers the end game,
Yeah. Or the one to fully turn their dial to the win setting.
Normally Khorne, but
So that's Khorne's way of victory,
And then the third way slips my mind. I can't think now.
It's if 4 of the regions are ruined,
that's it,
then at the end phase, you then score. You then do it.
Yeah. So as I said, it's not for the faint-hearted because you've got all this disease and death going on. But the board itself, the design of the board is basically a stretched piece of human skin.
Yes.
Is it human skin? I was going to go goat skin. I thought it was animal based.
It's not real. It's just printed, but it's.
I disappointed.
The wife was just looking at me, going, "What are you talking about?"
Well, I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the Dice Tower review of it, but they famously kind of were down on the game because it did have stretched human skin as the board. But the actual shape of it, I mean, if you go to the Fantasy Flight website, there's a really good video with the graphic designer for the game, and he talks about how that came about. And it's because it is actually a map from the Warhammer universe. Yeah. Effectively he just formed the map, but he thought when he looked at it, it looked like stretched skin, and so that's how he got there.
Okay. So, as I said, it's an area control, so you have a certain number of power points, and you can do all sorts of things. You can put your troops out in different regions, or you can play spell cards down in a region which can govern what happens within that region. So there's lots of ways you can play this game, and so you put corruption down, and if a certain amount of corruption goes into a region, it basically blows up and people get points. So yeah,
pretty good description. I mean, another way I suppose you could describe this in sort of layman's terms, if anyone has played Risk, it's kind of like Risk but without Australia.
Yeah, there's not many places to hide in this game.
There is absolutely nowhere to hide. In fact, the game positively encourages you to enter conflict because of the variable player power. So, as Joel mentioned, Khorne is like the fighty race or the fighty player who will go around killing everything, and the player to his left, who will play Nurgle, is really weak. So it encourages him to then sort of bully the player who sat to his left, because his strength is the other player's weakness. And then the player to his left is then counterbalanced to him as well. So Tzeentch is very sort of magical, move around the board a lot, confounding Khorne, but also screwing with Nurgle. So it's like the variable player powers are such a massive deal in this game. And they just make it phenomenal. If you get people who are really into the game, it's one of the best, I think, board game experiences you can have.
Well, this is one game. So I am not a conflict player. I don't particularly like conflict in games, or in life either. To be fair, but I can't do conflict. So Spartacus, I've got grown a hatred for and things like that because it's not. That's just I'm not comfortable with that. But this game forces you to. But not in a way of I'm doing this against you. It's I have to do this. You can't turtle in this game. You've got nowhere to turtle. You can't do anything at all apart from play the cards and play your strengths to whatever they are, whatever you're playing. And that makes the game incredibly enjoyable because everyone's dicking with each other. It's not you against everyone. It's everyone's with each other kind of doing stuff. So
it's really hard. I mean, there's a thing in board games which you guys will know called kingmaking, which is where basically two people fight each other and the third person wins. Yeah. It's almost impossible to have a kingmaker situation in this. I've heard people say that it happens. It never happens because the only time it happens is because they're not paying attention. But if I as a player pick on one of the other players, I'll lose. Simple. Even the guy I'm picking on is probably more likely to beat me because he's doing his own thing and probably being successful at it. It's like... It's just such a clever construct.
I think that the other thing you want to talk about with this one, particularly, was the Horned Rat, the expansion.
Yes,
because I think that expansion is absolutely brilliant. Because at the beginning, when you're playing with the normal, races, it's kind of you going around doing a thing, and they don't appear to do anything. They just sit back and they let everyone kind of get on a little bit, and then all of a sudden, as things are about to happen, they appear and they are gits because they are stealing all the victory points that you've kind of built up to achieve, and that's their trait. And it's like you get, and you can't do anything about it because of the turn order and the way things are happening and everything. And it's just like and that balancing act is fantastic. That expansion that they added on. So
I mean, they are the sneaky rats.
Yes, exactly. They should be. So yes, it is. Yeah.
And they go last, which means they can, like you said, you just sit back and let everyone do their thing, and then go, right, I'll come in and take that. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you sound a bit bitter, Lewis.
No, I have played this. I played it about 3 or 4 times. I've won it once, and I won it on points. I've played all the races, not played the rats. So I played it. Yeah, I've played 2 of them once. Then I think the Slanesh, because I quite like the pornographic nature of that particular race. It always makes me smile.
Hermaphrodites, I think.
Lobster clawed porn ladies, those ones. And I've played all the races, and I won with them. I won with Slanesh, and it was only the points, and it was because of the wars and the factions and the cards. You mentioned earlier, Joel, about these cards. Every region has 2 card spaces that you can put a card down that influences what's happening on there, and that could be you can't do anything here, or this is what's happening here, or this is the controlling factor. And because of the way that the turn order is, you can get gypped out of a zone really simply, and you've got people in there, but you now can't add any because you're not allowed to bring in any new troops. And this kind of card and area control makes this game really enjoyable because suddenly you realise halfway through, I've got to change my tack. I'm going over here. I can see that one's about to pop, and you're trying to move rather than conjure up your characters on the board. You're trying to move them as fast as you can to the right-hand side before those bloody rats end up there, or Khorne's going to come along and actually just trounce you.
You try and sell people dummies as well. You sort of like give the impression you're going in one place. Yep. And then you'll use a card that then go somewhere completely different. Yep. I mean, the rats are especially good at doing that because they can tunnel between areas. So you'll give the impression, oh, look, he's piling in there, and like all the Khorne will suddenly like throw his characters in there, and you go, no, I'm not. I'm going over here. It's just, it's so clever. And the other thing I really like about it is you just do not know who's going to win until the end, basically. I mean, the game we played at the weekend, Slanesh won that actually, and it was so close between 4 of us.
Yep.
And normally, if it gets down to that sort of getting towards the end, normally that favours Nurgle because Nurgle scores lots of points at the end when the regions get ruined.
Yeah.
But through various twists of fate and other factors, Slanesh just sort of snuck away with it at the last minute. It was just so brilliantly done. I don't think I've played a game that's been that close.
When I won, I was in second, and I could see the end point about to be triggered. So I had that kind of do or die. Right, I need to do this now, and I did everything I could possibly do to win, and it won me the game. And it was just one of those things where things popped, and other people were influencing regions that I needed to ruin. and it all happened, and the rats came in to help me ruin it, but actually helped me win. But he thought he was actually getting victories, and he thought he'd outdo me. And like you say, it was 2 or 3 points tops between the top 3 players. Yeah. And it's great for that kind of game because only when you're adding up at the end. But Khorne's victory power, these token dials that you get at the top. So there are these tiles, and every time you achieve, is it a ruin? What's the achievement that it's called? You achieve X number of points per round, and you can then turn your dial. I don't know what that terminology was called.
When you win battles, you can. Oh no!
Khorne gets
class,
it.
Yeah, each class has its own way of turning their dials. So Khorne is basically winning battles.
So exactly. So you leave one dude in a region, and Khorne goes in there and smacks it. He gets a victory battle point. So you don't want to give Khorne that satisfaction. So you've got to go and hide with other people, or kind of keep yourself away from him if you can. And you're trying to spread influence or corruption, and you're trying to do this and trying to cast magic and trying to put the gems down, and so on. And all of these contribute to you being able to turn that dial. And when I first played it, I didn't know how important that dial was.
Yeah, me too.
And it really is not only what you're trying to do, but how you're doing it. And how you're doing it turns that dial. And when you turn that dial, initially you might get nothing, but the second or third turn gets you more active tokens or action tokens.
Yeah. You always want to make sure you get at least 1 turn. I mean, everyone's trying to get 2 turns. So you get 2 turns if you have the most
tokens on it.
Because you have an objective. Every race has its own objective. Khorne is just killing. Mm-hmm. So every time he kills, he gets an objective token on it. But the other races have different objectives, like Slaanesh. Doesn't Slaanesh have to be in regions where there's royalty? I believe
that's the kings. They have princes. I think it is. They have to kill in that.
So
area.
because they're basically hermaphrodites and they're trying to corrupt the royal family, aren't they? So they have to try and
merge. I think
those areas.
We call it merge.
Yeah, that's it. And they get tokens for that. So the player who gets the most tokens on their dial will get 2 turns of the dial. So often you always want to make sure you get 1 turn, but also you ideally would like to get 2. But of course, everyone wants to get 2, and it's another pressure point in the actual game because you're trying to balance off: do I push for two turn dials, turns on the dial, or do I do something that's going to score me more points later in the game?
And Khorne's usually going to get 2 turns, and I think he has a higher track number than everyone else. I believe, is that correct?
Yeah, he's got about 15 turns.
Yeah, so he has to have quite a long way to go to turn that dial.
The lower ones have about 8 turns. I think.
Yeah.
So and I think it's great, and you can hold on to your cards. You don't have to play them, so you can kind of build opportunities up. But then it costs to play and things. So the balancing out in this game is fantastic. It's mechanics. So.
It's worth talking about the designer because the designer is Eric Lang, and those who listened last month will know that he designed the game we reviewed last month, which was XCOM, which also has variable player powers and is very, very finely balanced.
I'm so
also designed.
I'm so put off by that game after hearing you lot talk about it. It sounds too bloody hard.
Most people I've played it with won't play it again because they say it's too stressful. He also designed Quarriors, which is another game that has a lot of variation in play, which has of course been turned into all the Dice Master series. Mm-hmm. So he's a really talented designer. Like every game of his I've played, I've really enjoyed. Even going into it thinking I'm not really going to like this. He's not actually. Look at his record. He hasn't actually designed that many games. He's contributed to a few, but the ones he has designed have all been superb. So well designed and thought out, and how he manages to balance those player powers so well, it astonishes me.
He's one of these natural game designers. It all just flows for him quite well, and people, like you said, I'm looking through his back catalogue now. He's done loads of expansions for other games like the Call of Cthulhu card game and Game of Thrones, the card game. And I just think, people come up and say, right, design this game, and he can work with whatever they give him, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a really good, again, on the Fantasy Flight website, there's actually a really good interview with him, explaining his thought process. And you see he was really excited when he was asked to do it, because it's this massive, there's this huge lore that goes with Warhammer that he could draw upon. And I have to, he knocked it out of the park. I mean, this is probably my favourite game. I would say this is a game that I will always play if someone's got it there. And,
my friend Paul, who lives down here, he's one of his. He'll bring it out any opportunity. If you mention the word chaos, that comes out your first word. A sentence. He says it's on the table. He'll start setting it up. So he really enjoys it as well.
And I'm the same. I don't like these. I don't like conflict games. I don't like games with lots of take that either. But But no, I'm as a rule, I'm not that keen on these kind of area control games. I find them frustrating, or war games. But it's just so well designed, and really the fighting in it is fun rather than it being stressful.
Yep, definitely.
It doesn't and sometimes you sacrifice. It's like more like chess sometimes because you're sacrificing pieces, and people think they're getting a result, but they're not. It's
all you want
so
is one
clever.
piece left, just to claim some of it. Just all you're after.
Yeah, that's it. So, yes, I don't know what else we can say really. Fantastic game, and so if you're listening and you do get a chance to play it, then do check it out. We did have one listener comment. I think this is the first time or maybe the second time we've had a listener review. It actually came from Chris O'Regan, because I know this is one of his favourite games, and all he wrote was, "It's a work of genius. Good day," which kind of sums up.
I will say this game. You think don't play with the maximum. I'd say this game, play with as many as you can get on the game. If you got the Horned Rat expansion and you've got 5 people that want to play it with 5 people, because it plays so well with all the players.
Yeah, it doesn't really lengthen it that much either.
No, I found it really enjoyable with 5 players. And I mean, it is a good, you get your teeth into it for a good while, but it's really enjoyable, the whole thing. So, yep.
Right, okay, I think we'll bring it to a close there. So, I guess all that leaves me to do is, where can people find out what you're up to, Lewis?
Well, I'm moving house, so you can't find me here for much longer. I've got about a week and a half, 2 weeks before I actually up and move sticks to a town. I'm moving to a town, from a village to a town. So, the dizzy heights of electricity and streetlights, things like that should be quite fun. And I might even get super duper fast broadband with like that, where I get 2 digits in my broadband, not just like 1 where it says 3.
That's a dream of mine.
Steam power.
Yeah, hamsters don't carry packets down on USB sticks and hand them to you. So yeah, it's looking forward to it. So yeah, so that's where I'm going to certainly shortly. So yeah.
Okay. And Joel, where can people find your ramblings and rants?
Well, my own podcast, Ministry of Board Games. Latest one I put up, actually, I've done a review myself of Roll for the Galaxy. You'll probably find that's a better. How I talk about that better on that podcast than this one.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
You can hear that one.
That's what I mean. So yeah, my podcast, it goes on for a bit longer than this, but and it's just me talking, so it's not for everyone, but yeah.
Okay, thanks, Joel. So all it leaves me to do is thank the panel this month, who were Lewis Holt.
Thank you very much indeed for having me back, Gary. Thank you.
No worries. Joel Wright.
Thank you.
We'll be back next month with another. I'm not sure if we're doing a game review next month. We'll have to see. I have to look at the schedule. I should really have done that before I started speaking. But anyway, we will be back next month with another edition of GameBurst Unplugged. But otherwise, GameBurst will be back in its normal format. And with the news on Sunday, I do hope you will join us again for those.